Hey there, I'm James Saunders, and I'm going to be talking about visual thinking apps and review their uses in mobile technology, specifically with the iPad. So, what should a visual thinking app accomplish? Before we can answer this question, we must understand how a device like the iPad adds value to our daily lives. Without reviewing this, it's hard to define the usability of an application. So the iPad is full of capabilities. New ones are coming up every day, but not all of them really add value to me. In fact, many of them are just dead weight. It's important for us to take a step back and look at the advantages and disadvantages that separate a device like the iPad from traditional workstations. So let's take a look at some advantages. And these are the three advantages that I've noticed over the past couple months when using the iPad. First is the touch interface. This is fantastic because it eliminates the need for peripherals like a mouse or a keyboard. It adds a new level of intuition and interaction, and I believe it shortens the connection between the user's brain and the device, which really promotes visual thinking. The iPad occupies less space than any kind of textbook or notebook, and obviously this is a huge advantage for portability, and this is key to assessing the value of an app. Simplicity is a very important aspect in all of Apple's products, and instant access is part of that simplicity. With no boot time, you can open up the iPad and any application can be instantly accessed as fast as you can touch the icon. That brings me to some of the disadvantages. And these are the three main disadvantages that I've noticed over my time. Okay, and the first is, yes, the touch interface. Also an advantage is a disadvantage. Even though it provides all those uses I already talked about, it creates new sets of problems. Throughout my experience with the iPad, I'd have occasions where I would accidentally bump or touch a button that I didn't intend to, and this was a huge problem in accuracy when going through a more refined application, like something dealing with a spreadsheet editor or something like that. And the screen size. So this is the biggest disadvantage that I noticed. Well, a traditional workstation, is definitely superior for, let's say, editing photos and anything you need fine detail and a large screen. I mean, even though the resolution was really impressive on the iPad, I found that the screen size really did limit your options as in terms of application capability. And then there's the technical limitations. The value of mobility really does come at somewhat of a price with connectivity and power. The iPad is really at the mercy of whatever mobile network it's using, whether it be Wi-Fi or a cellular network. And while they try to alleviate it through the cloud, it still has limited access to local networks and things like that. Also, the processing power. You're going to deal with this with any mobile device. It's just going to be more limited, and in turn that affects the robustness of any application that's going to be on it. Okay, now that moves. We're going to move to situations where you'll actually be using the iPad, and to me, the situations are the number one determining factor for the usefulness of an app. Will you really want the app in a given situation? In a classroom, in a meeting, during a casual downtime, or on the go. Think of the realistic benefits of an app in those situations. Will you really want to, generate a keynote presentation while you're waiting on the bus? Or is that just more easily accomplished back at your workstation? And personally, I feel there are certain activities that can't leave my workstation, that I any attempt to bring them away just becomes cumbersome and inefficient. So that brings me back to the question. What should visual thinking apps accomplish? So now that we've looked a little bit at how the iPad can add value in our daily lives, let's start to think about evaluating these apps. A good visual thinking app should incorporate all the advantages that I talked about, and then try to avoid any problems created by those disadvantages. And another aspect also is the usefulness in common situations that we find ourselves with the iPad. And over the last 3 months, I've reviewed several apps, visual thinking apps, and I've kind of broken them down into 3 categories. And those are mind mappers, notepads, and data manipulation. So mind mappers help the user focus their thoughts in a visual manner, usually by expanding on ideas. So you start with one general idea, and then you'll branch out through. It's kind of like a flow chart, and you're branching out into finer subtopics. I found these very useful for situations such as meetings or in a classroom. Okay, and then there's also the notepad apps. These are a simple and quick way to jot down notes. The goal here is to kind of emulate a pen and paper notebook. I found these extremely useful for in-class notes. Okay, and then the other type was the data manipulation apps. These usually allow you to create and edit documents, spreadsheets, make graphs, make slides for a presentation. And I personally found these the least useful of all of them, basically because I don't really find myself performing these tasks on the go or away from my workstation. And the first app here I'm going to talk about is Magical Pad. I liked Magical Pad the most out of all the mind mapping apps, mostly because the other ones fell short. They just didn't have the functionality. They were just too simple. They didn't accomplish any more than I could with a pen and paper. And but Magic Pad also allowed you, what separated was it allowed you to add an outline in each cell, and this really extended the use of the app. I mean, it's not just mind mapping; you can also take notes with it, which I just loved. Okay, Penultimate is one of the notepad apps that I reviewed, and I liked it the best out of all of them. Its simplicity made it really attractive to use on the go, and especially in the classroom. But the limited accuracy of the iPad's touchscreen made it a little bit hard to fit all of the notes onto one screen. In the future, I would like to see devices that can fully emulate a pen and paper. Okay, and then Numbers is a spreadsheet app, and I didn't find this one particularly useful. While the interface was impressive, I couldn't find a situation where I was creating a spreadsheet on the iPad. Usually when I need to create a table, I have to send it to another program. I mean, and it's not always a specific program. Although it allows you to do that, I just found it more cumbersome, and I found myself just going back to my workstation. Okay, so that brings us back to the question again. So while some of these apps were very useful, many of them didn't really seem viable for the iPad. When the app's functions stray away from the mobile capabilities that make the iPad so great in the first place, I found I had to force myself to use them. And that really doesn't add any value to me. The app should jump out at me and really scream to be used. This is what I wanted from the iPad in the first place. And thank you. I'm James Saunders, and have a good day.